And welcome to our next session with Yaw Aning with Malomo. Yaw, how are you doing today, man?
Hey, I'm great, Brian. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm good. I am super happy to have you here to have this discussion. I know you got thoughts and opinions, so let's just go right into it.
Yeah.
First of all, for those that don't know Malomo, which I don't know how like that's insane. Everyone should know Malomo, just because of the name at the very least. And I know the name
Yeah.
comes from a very special experience that you had. So, can you tell us a little bit about your company?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Malomo, we are an order tracking platform, predominantly focused on high growth merchants on the Shopify ecosystem. Our goal is to really bring transparency to the delivery experience, help our merchants kind of control the customer experience after someone buys, and really be proactive with them about letting them know where their package is in the delivery process. And then like our big sort of like I would say maybe differentiator or our thesis that I think is different from most of the market is that shipment tracking has historically sort of been this very stale and generic experience.
Hmm.
We wanted to help merchants make it very enjoyable, help them stand out from the crowd, and use tracking as a way to connect in unique ways with their consumers, um, and ultimately make it a more profitable experience for the merchant and more delightful for the consumer. So
Hmm.
we help build a lot of tools in order to make that a reality.
There's several sessions today where the topics of customer education and product education, celebrating your customers, comes up, and I think that this blends itself so well. So we'll get into that. But actually, just out of curiosity, I know you've been in the D2C space for a while now, and you were at an agency prior to Malomo.
Yeah.
When you bet on Shopify, were was it seriously just a bet and it actually kind of paid off, or wow, Shopify was one of the e-commerce platforms that kind of took off, or did you have this sneaky suspicion, you knew some data points and you knew like Shopify would be in this position that they're at?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good question to sort of think back to like that time when we were first like with our agency, we would work with direct to consumer brands, and a lot of times they would come to us asking for like, hey, I'm launching a brand new storefront, um, or I've got sort of like a brick and mortar business and I'm trying to bring it online. And we ended up in the very early days sort of canvassing the market around solutions, and we would our agency would build kind of custom technology that would plug into Shopify and help them do some different things. And so we would canvass the market and looked at a lot of different solutions. And one of the things that stuck out about Shopify was, from a developer perspective, I'm not a developer, but our agency, obviously, we did some development. Their APIs and how extensible they were, how they let developers build like what felt like any type of experience that you wanted to enable. Um, it just was unparalleled. And so we did not know, like we felt like Shopify was small. Like it definitely didn't feel like this
Yeah.
large ecosystem, but the rate at which they were moving their technology forward felt very like new and unique. And that's what we made a bet on was like a modern technology stack would ultimately win. In like most of our merchants, they not only loved, well, I mean, they loved the aspect of it's really easy for them to manage the storefront and their product inventory and all that stuff. And then for us as developers, we could do all these crazy things. And so it felt like such like a symbiotic relationship. That we felt like we couldn't ignore. So I wouldn't say like we knew that Shopify was going to be as successful as it's become. It was more of like we just love this ecosystem and what they've built, and like we want to continue to build on it because it just felt so um, like they were ahead of the game.
Yeah. Um, well, good bet. And I guess too, it's like they're very, and I've heard it from the outside, they're very customer focused. And in your example, it's clear that like customer focused to them also means giving you the tools as a developer to utilize their platform as best as you
Yes.
can. And that's like what they
Yeah.
did. That's awesome to hear.
Yep.
Okay, so let me take it to like this next topic, which is, and I brought it up briefly. There's a session today with Shrey from Good Peeps, a D2C brand, and he started bringing up the the reasons behind why it's so important to educate
Mm,
your customers, to inspire your customers, and to inform your customers, and pretty much celebrate at the end of the day. I
yeah.
think that bodes really well with shipping, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how do you see that? And if you can, like, share a couple examples, use cases, or just in your opinion, where you can do all this through the shipping experience.
Yeah, so actually the genesis of Malomo in the early days actually came from this exact problem,
Hmm.
or opportunity, depending on how you look at it.
Opportunity.
Yeah, so I was just enamored by these direct to consumer brands that all felt like they were like launching these really incredible, highly crafted products. And so any opportunity that I found to like buy from a direct to consumer brand, I take. So I was in the market for a backpack. As a busy entrepreneur, you often have to travel and take like these 2 or 3 day trips, and I hated traveling with a big suitcase because it just felt like overkill. So I was looking for sort of like this backpack where I could do these trips, and so I found this brand. People probably know it by now. This is probably back in 2016 or 2017, called Nomadic. And I think I found their Kickstarter and was just like, oh, this is really cool. Like I like the feel of the bag, etc. So I placed an order, and then I just weirdly got into like this like mental state of like how to like efficiently pack for trips. I don't know why. And so like I would just like YouTube like different ways to like pack for trips, or like
Yeah.
different like places that you could go, uh and like that like just really got me excited about getting the bag, because there was you just envision like all the things that you're going to do once you get that product. um, and I was like, no offense to Nomadic, but back in the day, like I don't think any brand is doing this. Like once I got the package, I was like expecting for them to educate me on all these things that I like
Yeah.
innately felt like I wanted to do. And so I was like, what we should sort of like get our like the brands that we work with to do this. Like shipping, it's sort of this boring thing that people do. Um, but once you buy something, you have this moment where you have the like literally a captive audience of that single consumer. They're highly engaged, they're paying attention to your brand. Like merchants should leverage that to engage them and keep them entertained or educated about the product, the brand, new products that are coming out. And so that was the use case for Millennial. It's like, oh, we could turn shipping into this like really
Super
interesting
interesting.
marketing retention channel. So I sort of pitched that to my co-founder Anthony, like the original for his point of view. Like when we were thinking about this, it was more of just like, let's just create this dashboard where we can tell merchants where their orders were. I was like, but once we do that, there's this other kind of like really cool thing that we can do, which is like make this a really unique marketing channel. So we fused the
Yeah.
two together to sort of like make Momo.
Ugh, that's fascinating. And
Yeah.
um, I, again, I'm gonna create an assumption, but it's more about timing, right? Because at that point, there's brands, they've always had the ability to email their customers after someone purchases, but there's this time of like, hey, they get really excited about where is my
Hmm.
item at, right? And again, like, it goes back to
Yeah.
the customer support. The number one question everyone gets is, where is my order? But is that what it is? Like, at the helm of it, it's just the timing. It's that excitement.
Hmm.
It's like an inflection point, and it's like, well, if we got them up here, like, it's the best time to educate. Is that really where what it comes down to?
Yeah, I mean, there's like rarely a place that you can make more strong impression than shipping. Um, like you said, the timing is so crucial because the emotional state of the consumer is in such a unique place.
Mm,
They're both like excited but anxious, right? They're anxious that their product's not going to arrive, so they go to their order to track it, and they track it a bunch, like a lot. We've sort of seen that, upwards of a fifth of all website traffic hits one page, and that's the order stats page. So like it's just customers really care. And so their emotional state is pretty heightened from that anxiousness, but they're also super excited, right? They're super excited to get this thing that they probably searched forever for on the internet, right? They looked at alternatives, they read the product reviews, they decided to buy from your brand. So they want to also hear from you, like about who your brand is, what you stand for, what your products
Yeah.
can do in their life that makes their life better. So that timing is really, I mean, it's like it's the timing creates this emotional pressure, and that emotional pressure can like help you form a brand impression either positively or negatively.
Is it also like confirmation as well too? Because at least in my opinion, sometimes there's this guilt almost after a purchase of like, oof, did I
Yeah,
make the right purchase or not?
yeah,
And do some of your brands or your customers kind of take that opportunity too to almost confirm that it's like, hey, listen, no, you made the right purchase. Let me tell you about the brand. Let me
yeah.
tell you about the story again and again to make you feel. Do you Are there merchants that utilize that moment as well like that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think you nailed it too. Like, for some consumers, right, they might discover your brand through a random ad. Like I've got a hat from Melon on my desk. Like literally just saw this Facebook ad. I was like, that is such a dope hat.
And you
And
purchased it
purchased
right there.
and a purchase.
Oh
Yeah,
man, you
yeah,
are
yeah.
the lookalike audience for all these brands. That's you. They want
I'm,
you. Put this
oh,
ad
I'm
in front of
targeted.
you.
I'm targeted, right? And it works. Uh, but like, and then in that moment, you're like, "Oh, was that a bad idea?" Like, and then it's not even like, was that a, will I not love the product? Some of it's like, is this a real brand? Did I just buy from some sort of like vaporware company and get my money stolen? And because that
Sounds like that
happens,
has
right?
happened to you before.
So there's definitely some of that of just reinforcing like this is a great idea. I'm going to show you all the reviews from others who have made a similar decision as you. I'm going to tell you how they use the product, how they get the value out of the product. And so you're just piquing all of that emotional connection.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. So
yeah,
let me just ask you another question about post purchase, or not even post purchase. Let's just say customer experience in general. Is there anything like that I'm missing if I were to say, yeah, I think customer experience is around celebrating your customers, customer education, you know, bleeding the brand into the experience as well too. Is there anything else that like you would say is also as important as those three? And again, this is off the cuff, so I'm just curious if you
yeah.
can think of something else when it comes to just customer experience about these brands.
Yeah. I mean, like the basics of like Uh, you know, I think a lot of brands also don't want to do this, but getting out ahead of problems too.
Hmm.
The during the delivery experience, I think about, carriers get a lot of flack. They get a lot of anger thrown at them for, you know, losing packages, getting them, not delivering them on time, them being damaged, and you think about like literally billions of packages are moving across the world in just a few days. The coordination that is required to do that on the scale that these carriers do it, it's sort of like the eighth wonder of the world in my mind. That anything even arrives. Like Brian, I could literally go outside my door, put something in the mailbox, and in like 3 days it would arrive on your doorstep in Chicago from Indianapolis. Like that is sort of like amazing to me. Um, but like that scale means that like things are going to go wrong. Like there's two things that are sure in life, like or three things: death, taxes, and like a package will go like will
I
go
love that.
missing.
That's not the
uh,
first time you've said
it's
that, huh? That's a motto of yours.
oh, I just put those in my back pocket and just wait
I
till
love it.
uh but like just trying to predict, right?
Yeah.
When an experience is going to go bad, and then telling the customer what's happening, tell them what you're going to do about it, right? Setting a new expectation. If that expectation changes, right, getting ahead of those things. There's been a lot of research that says like if somebody like has an experience with your brand and it's bad, and you work really hard to rectify that experience proactively, the loyalty from that consumer to your brand is actually higher than if something wrong never occurred with that consumer in the first place.
Hmm.
And so being able to like just get ahead of those problems, knowing that they're going to happen, is also kind of a key part of that overall customer experience and brand loyalty.
Yeah, I think I could see some similarities between, again, the post purchase experience with shipping, like you mentioned, just to clarify. Hey, a package is getting lost. It's better to text them, email them up front as soon as you have that understanding and notification, and then it goes to just customer support. I assume in general,
Yeah.
like
Yep.
I honestly agree with what you just said. Like being proactive is probably that fourth kind of topic pillar that I forgot to mention, because I do think now more than ever, life is busy, and a brand is important. It's important to be proactive with whatever message or
Yeah.
whatever they want to talk to, right?
Yep.
Super interesting.
Yep.
Let me kind
Yeah.
of pivot this to, if you have any thoughts. I know you got thoughts and opinions, but does and specifically about AI. So let me kind of set
Yeah.
the stage really quick. There's a ton of technology companies today that are, the next announcement is around new AI functionality with their platform. Um, and I want to say, like, take yourself outside of Malomo and put yourself in the merchant's shoes for right now. Like, if you're a merchant, would you like try to utilize as much of this AI
Mm.
technology use cases as possible? Would you kind of put yourself on hold? Where would you start if
Yeah.
you were a merchant?
Yeah. It's a wonderful question. Like it is, even as a founder, like I'm thinking about the same things in my business, right? Like
Yeah.
AI is going to change my business um, for the better, maybe even for the worse. And so like you can't ignore it. Um, but like there's just so much happening and so much change that's also sort of like hard to wrap your head around it. I think for a lot of people, um, AI right now is sort of like a hammer, and like to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So like
Yep.
people are just trying to apply AI to everything, when in reality, I think like the mindset should be, what customer problems do I have? And how might AI help me solve those customer challenges to create a better experience? Not all of those things require AI, but there could be some like really interesting use cases around that. I sort of like I'd bucket like AI into, around like specifically like customer experience things, into four buckets. Um, One would be more of like utility, right? How does AI do things for me or my customer? The other one is customer delight. Like, how does AI make my customers' experience more enjoyable? Um, there's the third one I would kind of categorize as efficiency. So, how does AI make, my life serving my customers easier, or my customers' life easier? And then the fourth is more on like insights. Like, how does AI spark new ways of thinking or new ways to do things? Um, from a consumer, like if I'm a DTC brand perspective of those four buckets, there's clear ways in which my brand could be impacted by those four things. Like an efficiency perspective, right? AI could make my employees' lives easier. I could do more things with less. Um, those are more the obvious things, and a lot like there's a lot of like really great platforms like Customer doing like really impressive things around that, right? To make support agents' lives easier, to help them answer customer questions faster, get to the right answers quicker, and do it in a really delightful way.
Yeah.
um, I think people sort of like ignore the thing that I care a lot about, is like, how do I make my customers' life more enjoyable, and create like newer, delightful experiences. So much of the conversation around AI today has been around chatbots and LLMs and all that stuff, and we can go into that. I think there's some interesting things to be said around like some of this like image or video manipulation that's happening, which like it's weird for me to say because I'm scared of some of it, like legitimately scared.
Yeah.
But there's some really like cool use cases that you could also kind of like create. So I think of like, oh, like merchants talk about this all the time, but they've struggled to figure out how to do this at scale, which is like, um, do a personalized thank you message from the founder, right? Like people
Uh,
have talked about, I could handwrite written letters to
yep.
that customer, thanking them for the order. If they're a first time customer, we write something different than if they bought from us a bunch. Um, but like, there's some cool things that you might be able to do around that. But I even take that one step further of
I
like,
like that.
it would be great to have like a thank you video that I see on my order confirmation or my tracking experience that is literally the founder saying, "Hey, Brian, thanks so much for buying this melon hat. Like, here are all the ways that I think you would get value out of this." And like leveraging AI to do that at scale, I think it's like, oh man, I think that's where you unlock some really unique customer interactions that I don't think people are thinking about.
I like that. I think what you bring about in this conversation and topic is that there's going to be this like new bar for customer support. This is just my hypothesis. There's going to be this new bar for customer support, right? Because of AI models and because now we could provide a certain standard experience. When everyone's right here, and then what?
Yeah.
How do you
Yep.
differentiate, right? Like, how do you
Yep.
then you could celebrate your customers, but how and why and at what points? And I love that. I haven't heard of that before, but
Yes.
that's a unique experience, and I do think that merchants have to think through that a little bit more of how do we
Yeah.
provide now proactive, unique experiences to differentiate yourself in the brand.
Hmm.
How important is um, now how important is a brand? And when I say
Mm.
that, meaning the story, the elements, the emotions that a brand kind of pushes. Maybe it's not more important than before. Just what's your opinion
Yes.
on that?
Oh man, that's like that's such I love that question so much. And yet there's so much to unpack there. Uh I think like if you could almost think about like remove brand from the equation and think about relationships and
Hmm.
think about the people in your life. Like where do you find yourself spending time? Um, who do you find yourself spending time with? And that's how you should think about what your brand is with your consumers. It's like, I'm trying to build a relationship with you. I'm not trying to get you to like, know my tagline. Like, I mean, that's important, but like, I think it goes way deeper than that. Um, to where it's just like the little things that you do to plant deposits that can be harvested later in the form of just repeat purchases from your brand is it's I think that's like the drive. So it's like I almost like it's almost like when you're dating somebody, right? Like you're courting them, you're doing some things to build trust, to drive affinity with them, to get them to like you, to get them to love you, to get them to marry you. I think people should think about brand in the same way. It's like I'm trying to do over time build this multi-dimensional relationship with this consumer, and it's not one way. It's not brand me trying to portray who I am to you. It's like I want you to know me, and I want to know you, and we should be in a relationship with each other, and that will be beneficial to both of us. Um,
In your opinion,
yeah.
this is a hard hitting question. Do you think a brand can develop relationships when they use AI, an
Mm,
AI bot, or even AI responses via an email? Is that developing relationships between a brand and a consumer, or does there need to
yeah.
be that human element in
Yeah. I
it?
don't.
You're
I
like,
don't.
oh,
Oh, Brian.
that's...
Yeah. I mean, like for the most part, I
there's
don't.
no perfect answer here. Let me just
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
really
yeah,
people are trying to figure this
yeah,
out. So
yeah. I like. What's that movie? I forget that movie. There's a couple.
you're gonna have to
Uh,
give me a better clue than that.
I,
I don't know. That's Space
you know
Jam.
what I'm thinking of, right? That
Space Jam.
movie, right? I'll try to think of it. I can't think of it right now. But I like it's. I think like chatbots are not there yet. So I think more of the experiences degrade the relationship than build them today. Because like you can, if you as a consumer know you're talking to a chatbot and the responses are very like even if they sound human-like, but you know it's a chatbot, it definitely feels impersonal. So I think the short-term answer is like AI should aid humans in getting to like conversation or relationship, like building elements faster. Can AI reach a point where it replaces a human over time? I feel like that's the goal, right? Like people are trying to get there. And if you do that in a way where the human doesn't know they're chatting with like a bot, then it's possible, I would say,
Yeah.
right? Like,
But it's like if we're optimizing towards like, oh, hopefully they don't know that it's an AI bot. We then it's kind of confirmed that no, the best of the best is a human to human experience because that's what we're trying to
yeah, yeah,
replicate,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I mean. Honestly, yes, right? Nothing will replace that,
Yeah.
because that's what we're trying to do, really.
Right.
Yeah.
But I will say on the other
Mhm.
side of thing though, on the other side of this, there there are conversations of like, well, the best sort of customer support is a fast like answer right away. And it's like done. Like here, yep, I want to return something. Here you go, just do that. Or if you have again a question about a certain service of in the description, what does this mean? Oh, here it is, and that's it. And I find that fascinating because it is kind of two sides. It's like, well, you do want some friction. Like if it's just like one
Yeah.
click and you get your answer and that's it, and that's your experience. Um,
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep. There's got to be more like if you're playing the long game, right? Like uh like I have this personal saying, right? Play long-term games with long-term people. If you're playing the long game with your customers, you're optimizing for several dimensions to build that relationship. Like speed could be one
Mm-hmm.
aspect of that relationship, right? But like we're multi-dimensional beings, and sometimes speed is what we want, and sometimes slowness is what we want. Sometimes like care and empathy is like more important. Sometimes delight or like giving like levity to a situation is like what we want. And so I definitely like most of the conversation I sort of like highlighted those four things, and I think like what
Yeah,
you are alluding to is right, that efficiency in the equation. Um,
yeah,
but does efficiency remove delight? It could. It could potentially. I think people need to like think about this in just multiple dimensions, because I don't think it's going to be reduced effectively down to just like AI makes us work faster, and that's like,
you're right. You're right.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I'm gonna wrap this up, but
yeah.
I kind of feel like I may have even more questions now than before I started this session. Sometimes maybe about life. But no, honestly, yeah,
Yeah.
I really appreciate the time. Always enjoy talking to you, and I can't agree more. Long-term relationships. Wait, hold on, I got it wrong. What was the saying? You say it.
Play long-term games with long-term people.
Long-term games with long-term people. I love that. I
Yeah,
hope we can continue
yeah.
doing that. Yeah. Thank you again,
Yes, yeah, likewise. Yeah.
and
Thank you for having me.
we'll talk soon. Thanks all.